What is up, you savages? This is the Protect Your Neck podcast, and I'm your host, Dan Tom. Analyst is work you can find over at MMA Junkie as well as oddscheckerus.com. But on this here program, the Protect Your Neck podcast, we break down high-level MMA. That's what we're going to do here today tonight whenever you're listening to this. Hopefully it's before the fight. Recording this in the wee hours of the night here in Las Vegas time. Tonight, not Aberdeen, but Las Vegas for UFC Vegas 40 for Aspen Lad, Irish Spring versus Norma Beaumont. Norma Dumont, that's going to be UFC Vegas 40. Check the timestamps for that. Late night delirious night. We're going to try to get through this and expedite if we can. But yeah, check the timestamps for when that starts as per usual. Whether you're listening on YouTube, thanks for listening to the audio version. James Young, I hear you in the video, man. I'm trying to get there. I got to get my health and schedule in order, and then I can be reliably camera ready. Though I will warn you, when when I fully move over to video, not just my interviews or top 5, which are in video for the most part, probably less accidents, but that's probably for the better. Less goofiness as well, but that's probably for the better again. For the majority of you, air quotes, normal functioning people, normal compared to me, but not compared to we, because it is the we that watches this crazy sport of mixed martial arts. So thank you there on YouTube, or if you're on Apple Podcasts, thanks for the 5-star ratings and reviews. Those have been trickling in slowly but surely. They really do help over on Apple Podcasts. Thank you. I'm trying to get over to the Stitcher or SoundCloud, but I got some forced breaks coming up. 2 weeks approved. Gonna maybe do some more. We'll see. We're gonna try to get back on track with those things. But yeah, the timestamps will tell you when the UFC Vegas 40 breakdown starts from top to bottom. Of course, I recap all my picks and plays at the end. And I will say, which I will also timestamp along with the recap of UFC Vegas 39. In between those things, the breakdown and the recap of UFC will be some Bellator 268. Got some plays there on one of the Grand Prix fights. Broke down both those in depth, which you can find over at MMA Junkie. They got the full breakdown treatment. We called an audible, as you know, this space tends to do, as the UFC sure as shit does, and they sure as shit did this week, so did we over at Junkie, and I did not do the full treatment with video or written for Laden Dumont. I know, I hear so many people just disappointed, but we will get to all that and more as fast as we can. But if you're even in more of a rush, feel free to check the timestamps. It doesn't hurt. Gonna give some quick shouts and a recap for this first portion. Shouts to Rob G, one of the best supporters. And I would say that even if you didn't hit the old PayPal link, which you can find over at mixedmartialanalyst.com, which supports this here free show that's been free for we'll be good. Well, I think we're still on track to actually hit 300 episodes, which will be what will it be? I've been doing this for 6 years, but the podcast only 5. December 2016. So this year will be 5 years free, and we'll stay that way. Hopefully, unless I need some employment or whatever. But like honestly, sharing the program and stuff is like how and good word and stuff is like the best thing you could do, to be honest. And Rob G always does that, man. Voting with your dollars is about the only useful vote you can really do. Your dollars and clicks. And sadly, as someone who sees the analytics, the clicks don't really go to the quality in this space. You've heard it from many before, and you heard it from me many times before. So apologies there, but it is true. And all that counts. So whether you're tagging, saying something nice, we all say something negative. Let's try to be better, including myself, by the way, which I am trying to be, even toward people like commissions and the thankless jobs of referees and all those things, right? So I'm trying my best too, but not just be positive, but maybe then is the time to tag somebody and not a negative, right? But maybe not just tag them, but tag their bosses, or if they have a tweet, that has aforementioned employers and people you're a fan of their content in one, feel free to reply and say how much you enjoy that, because people higher up than we do see that, and it does matter. And Rob G is always consistently one of the guys here, the Protect Your Neck podcast. Regardless, stop hitting that donate button though, Rob. You're too kind. Scott E realized that thank you, Scott E, by the way. Another donator, he did it through a different way. I didn't even realize this. I guess you don't even have to go to my site. Like over on at DanTomMA, which is the only social media account that I'm like consistently active on by choice. Unfortunately, I'm trying to be better on Instagram. It's tough, anyways. But I got my link tree there, and no, sorry folks, there's no Only Dan's account there that you can go to. But I didn't realize there's a PayPal link there that I guess I inputted. And it all goes to the same place, thankfully. It is secure, Scotty, and thank you for that donation as well. I think he is a gambler there, so, again, I appreciate it. I'm a bad businessman. I don't ask for help. I don't ask for tips. I don't ask for anything, of that nature. I'm really bad with those things. So you guys, whether it's the kind words, the small financial nods, which these weren't small donations, by the way, so extra thank you guys. But anything, just it doesn't matter. It's the effort that's worth a lot to me. So I appreciate all the listeners of this show. Again, back to the shouts on YouTube and the commenters there, people who like the video. I mean, it's so appreciative. Thank you so goddamn much. Okay, that concludes the shouts. We're gonna go to recap UFC Vegas 39 recap. We went 7-2 overall. 1-0 in our parlay that hit. 1-1 in straight. 1-3 in prop flyers. With the main prop being the big one that we actually needed to hit. For both Odds Checker / the podcast and overall. It wasn't much, but it was a positive we ended on, so I will take it. And hopefully you did too, right? So we're going to go to that. Marina Rodriguez, of course, defeated Mackenzie Dern in the main event. Unanimous decision, 49-46 across the board. I can't remember if there was supposed to be any 10-8s in there or not. I wouldn't have been surprised. I will say, even though there wasn't a finish, I did credit for Dern's durability, so I don't know if I underestimated it per se, but I did predict that part wrong. So those prop flyers for rounds 3, 4, even the little one on 5, did not come through. But I mean, Marina Rodriguez did, and that's what I laid the money line to kick for that coverage there. So that was definitely nice. It also proved my reads on the tie-ups and the clinch and whatnot. And that's always nice when the analysis kind of fits, Let's see what that was. The straight plays was Rosa. That one. We'll get to that one. The round props. Oh, yeah, and we had to cancel because Hogs Inside the Distance didn't happen because that fight got scrambled. Like, I went to sleep and woke up to a fight canceled that I wasn't even aware was going to happen. So there was that, right? Randy Brown defeated Jared Gooden via unanimous decision. Weird thing with the toe. I avoided that one, and I didn't watch it too much, so I can't say. I watched too much live, so I can't say much. Mateusz Nicolau came through as the parlay piece. Defeated Tim Elliott. Don't want to pile on a Krause who already took accountability like a good coach and team leader should. So good on Krause for doing that. But that sucks for Elliott. Because he did better than I thought. But then again, at the same time, I still feel like Nicolau. I still feel like Nicolau had the skills to win, so it wasn't. I don't feel like it was obviously it wasn't a bad bet because of cash, but I don't think it was a terrible read either. Despite Tim Elliott seemingly having opportunity to put himself in a position to win, if not for the corner directive. So, I don't think anybody should hang their head too much, but yeah, we move on and take that W there. Maria Aguibova defeated Sabina Mazzo via submission. Wow. Yeah, that check right hook, that was some powerful stuff. Hope Sabina is okay. Glad I stayed away. But if you cash those dog tickets, good on you. Chris Gutierrez defeated Felipe Kolaresh via a split decision. Shouldn't have been a split decision at all. So again, obviously not a bad bet because it cashed Gutierrez and Nicolau. But yeah, the reads were right, and I don't hate the round 3 sprinkle, even though it didn't cash, because again, a couple different choices. And I know Kolaresh is durable. I don't know if I underestimated that, because I definitely stated it going in and in my analysis, but he survived. But hey, the read was kind of there. I kind of wish I played this one, even though I stayed away from it. So even I said, I'm like, round 2, ground and pound. I called it exactly the round that was going to happen, and that's what happened. I will be honest, I did low key, as I listened right before the event, tail some. Excuse me. Hashtag Fatty's gonna fatty. Shout out to the MMA analysis and Brass Chuck. It's real. But yeah, Romanov came through over I Vendera. Give me sight beyond sight. Fucking Walt Goggins and shit defeated Charles Rosa. This underdog shot was a failure. But man, I like I said on Twitter, I really mad. I couldn't help but give Walt Goggins, Damon Jackson, and Saif Sayoud, Fortis MMA, they're due. Obviously, Charles Rosa has shown a loose position, but like very few people meaningfully have taken his back. Like, I'm not sure if I said that in the podcast, but like for all the oppositioning, he doesn't really have his back taken, and that's Jackson's position, and he was able to get there meaningfully. And again, to my credit, even though the bet was a loser, I'm not trying to front at all, but again, the analysis did say that there would be some improvements with Sanford MMA. That he did show that the wrestling was still intact. He did show improvements in his get-up urgency. And we saw that here, both in defense and urgency. But Damon Jackson persevered, and even though his record says do or die, it's deceptive. And I even said this in the analysis, but again, perhaps didn't listen to it enough. The guy was called Cadillac in high school for running marathons and whatnot. So it wasn't necessarily, and I did say this to my credit, but again, perhaps didn't give it enough credit, wasn't necessarily do or die by his cardio sense. And that showed to really, really come through for him, especially after getting the cut, after almost being, Korean zombie Yair Rodriguez in the 3rd round there. So that was kind of... So that was pretty crazy. But, good on Jackson, man. Hard-earned win. Lupi Godinez defeated Sylvia Gomez Juarez via armbar round 1. Quick work, and she put herself in a position to Chris Lieben it. But a week earlier to break Chris Lieben and the previous record for fastest turnaround. We'll talk about that in the breakdown coming up, I suppose. But made quick work of the would-be Contender Series fighter, Juarez. Steve Garcia came through, thankfully. This clinched the winning night, not just the 3-legger for the plus 176 parlay to defeat Charlie Ontiveros, but we bet the under here, and that came through. So that was a nice bonus. Did a little bit of prop hunting with a similar theme. Hopefully we can do the same this week. Knock on wood. Hit the parlay and the added bonus that's designed to hit some coverage in case the parlay does not fall through, because this is MMA after all. So we will see as we finish that recap at 14:30 and move on to Bellator. By the way, I didn't talk about the really bad bet, and I was clearly pissed off about it online with the, not bad bet, but Paige Lima. Again, that was just, like I said, I was reminded of some of the fights, and maybe not as bad as I when I went back to look, but some of the fights that I got some really bad beats on, and I feel like I was just really, even though I've been able to dig out some, some decent amount of winning nights here, in my credit from a betting standpoint, picks wise and crucial, close calls were just not going my way, and the pressure I've really been putting myself these few weeks, including this week, although I do feel better about these bets, which I don't know if it's a good thing, because I feel like I was sweating balls and stressing and then pulling out wins. So, I don't know if that's a good sign that I'm actually feeling decent about what I got for you guys this week. or not. But yeah, there's a bit of that, and then yeah, it was also just classic fucking, classic bad decision, and you want to say English bias because from boxing to MMA, from Hendo Bisping 2 to Bisping Hamill, not picking on Bisping, you know what I'm saying? Shoot, I actually bet him in the Hendo fight, so believe me, I'm not picking on the guy. But Ben Cartilage, the one English judge, was the one judge who scored that fight right. So I'm not trying to pick on my brothers and sisters across the pond, but, let's call a spade, folks. Whether it's the betting window, you guys move the betting windows, whether it's the judges. And again, I'm not coming at my brothers and sisters, especially so many awesome ones in the media who I love, but let's be honest, folks. And I'm sure these people, if pressed to it, would admit the same, that the English-Irish across-the-pond bias is a very strong one that seeps through all facets of the sport, and there's nothing wrong with that. I come from a prideful island myself, and as I'm part Irish, I guess, but no, Hawaii, of course, I'm talking about. So believe me, and I call myself out and others out, so it's not picking, just calling a spade for a spade. There's certainly a lot of that, and you get the crowd factor. That's just human nature, right? Again, these are just human nature things, not picking on it, but these are just the factors that exist. And this is actually to criticize me, if anybody. I should have been more aware of that, as far as the that factor. But it was what was more frustrating was just the knockdowns, air quote knockdowns of like just Paige pretty much like running into him and knocking him down, and Lima like not even hurt. Like there was one right hand knock. I don't even know if it was one that even fully knocked him down, but that was one that was like legit off of a clean strike. Whereas it was just like bulldozing him over the other times, and then like there are people on Twitter that were just like, "Oh, that was the knockdown." Like, oh, Jesus. Anyways, it was just really bad and I was just talking about this too. The funny thing was before that podcast about like off balance knockdowns and stuff, and it's like it's a sloppy strike that was off balance, and the judge counts it as a knockdown. And boxing, they're more stricter on what they call on that for good reason, because in MMA they're just so fucking willy nilly and often wrong. And so that was just kind of ironic that, I mean, maybe not ironic. What, Dan, you actually brought up a good point that came to fruition. I know, crazy. But that was that. So we go into Bellator 268. I'm just going to go over not the whole thing, just the top two fights and my bets and whatnot. Like there's some stuff here like, you got Yagji Muradov against Al Berkson. Kolaresh is back. Brent Peterson, Benson Henderson, which feels like a weird fight. What did that open as? Yeah, then coming in Henderson. He's got a chip on his shoulder. Looks in great shape. Not that Henderson ever looks out of shape, but he looks thin. I wrote up Anderson 178, Bader plus 144. That just seems odd because it's like the more accoladed MMA fighter, and the more accoladed wrestler. Is the underdog, and you guys know I've been a big fan of Bader. He's done really well for me, but I just think that essentially it could be a stymieing matchup. You could say both men have done well against other wrestlers. Bader due to skill, but it's like he was barely. Also, you could look at it like, well, he was also barely able to output Phil Davis, who has like some of the lowest output ever. Both striking and wrestling. Whereas Anderson, like he's beaten more accoladed wrestlers like Pat Cummins, freestyle rep. I believe it's freestyle. But a U.S. team representative, and was also an All-American as well. So yeah, the folk style chops as well. I don't know, Glover had a bad camp. He's not known as a wrestler, but he's a really good wrestler. Did well in that fight. And the two times that Anderson has been taken down were early in his career, one off of a kick, the other off of Jan Blachowicz, who would later become champion, but was then not really known. Wrestling definitely wasn't his skill. He just kind of started it and made it a point to take Anderson by surprise, which costed him his gas tank. if you remember that fight. And both times, Anderson's been taken down in his career. He showed really good get-ups, and those were early in his career too. And he just stayed calm, even in the Blachowicz fight, because he was actually like rocked and hit a bunch of times before he got taken down early in his career, so on and so forth. Still stayed calm, underhook get-ups. Really good stuff from Anderson as far as that goes. I saw Bader talking, and I agree with Bader. He's not that explosive with his takedowns. It's like up against the cage. Not that Bader can't be put there, but he's usually the person putting people there, right? So that's a tough ask. So if anybody scores a takedown, I would actually think it'd be Bader. But unless either guy is hurt or tired, which neither guy really gets tired, although Bader, I would say, has the more propensity to be tired because, again, part of the reason why I'm picking him is because he has someone that can match his pace and whatnot. I feel like they're just going to be short and sweet stanzas for the most part, again, unless someone's hurt or tired or on their way out kind of a deal. And with the 5 rounds of that, even though Bader is proven with his cardio in 5 rounds, I still pick Anderson to edge him out. Anderson's been doing a lot more kicking as well. I think that's going to serve him well. Whereas Bader, his striking's gotten better, but his better footwork, which is what I think he would need in this fight, also has taken away from his power a bit. So unless he's really stepping it in and hitting the perfect left hand on guys who are just fossils of their former selves, like King Mo was or Fedor, if you really look at it, he really hasn't been getting those stoppages. Linton Vassell, yes, but I believe that was like a wrist ride on top ground and pound thing, something he's not going to be able to do to Anderson because, again, it's like Spider-Man pointing to each other meme. Anderson does a lot of those same rides too that Bader does. They trained together before. Plus Anderson being a homework hound, and under Mark Henry, who is a homework hound himself. I think they know exactly what they're up against. They got the video game controller. It's basically, unless Bader can knock Anderson out, then Corey probably will win by doing more, and he could maybe even knock Bader out. So I picked Anderson, but I'm rooting for Bader. If you played him, I'm rooting for you. It seems like a dogger pass. Gun to the head, if you're going to play Anderson, you look for the decision or rounds 4 and 5 small sprinkles, but mainly probably that decision prop. But I'm honestly going to stay away. I like where Bader's head's at. He looks like he's in great shape. He just got his black belt. Yeah, man. I hope I'm wrong. The pick is Anderson. Next fight, though, I definitely hope I'm right because I got Moolah on this one. Vadim Nemkov. Got $50 on them assholes. Shout out to Die Hard. Vadim Nemkov minus 550. Julius Anglicus plus 380. Did the full written treatment on this one. This one's was out before I recorded, so hopefully you guys got a chance to check that out. MMAJunkie.com. Basically, Anglicus is a really tall wrestle boxer, and even though he doesn't seem fragile and his cardio doesn't seem terrible, he doesn't have a lot of experience. And things can get sketchy the longer they go. I don't like the length because against taller fighters, Vadim Nemkov tends to do pretty well. I know Yuri Prochazka is taller than him, but again that's a weird fight where, again, why Herb Dean is that Brian Ortega stuff is bullshit. Oh, he was tired. It's like, well, if a fighter's too tired to get up, regardless of the help from the corner rule, it should still be called because that's what happened in Europe when he fought Yuri Prochazka, Vadim Nemkov, right? He called the fight because he was dominating, unlike Ortega was, by the way, was not. And he got the fight called against him because he couldn't get up because he was too tired. That was Vadim Nemkov. But you look at like Liam McGeary kicks his legs off, Carvalho struck with him well too until taking him down. Yeah, knocked out heavyweight Philippe Lins. Nemkov's always done well against bigger guys, and then against wrestle boxers, well, he's got 2 in a row. 3 of his last 4 fights, 4 of his last 5, including this one, will be against wrestle boxers, so to speak. I know Davis was very kick heavy in his career, but he actually did a lot more boxing and his best success with his punches against Nemkov. for those not keeping up with Davis. So wrestle boxing is kind of what he's been used to seeing. I don't like Angelikas' kick defense either. He also dips really heavy to the right side, even though he's actually been, I believe he's been rocked by a right-sided head kick. Lost to Cameron Olson early in his career as a wrestler via arm triangle choke. Again, that was in the third round. Things got sketchy. That was early in his career, so I don't want to hold it too much against him. He was able to win decisions recently that I wasn't able to get much more than highlights from, so it's hard to tell, but he looks like he's moving much more smoother. Still training at St. Charles MMA. Not the biggest gym. Not really notable training partners. Whereas Nemkov, he's got the whole bunch. Freestyle wrestlers, his older brother, Fedor, the Fedor team, so on and so forth. So basically, I think Nemkov's either going to kick his legs or head kick him, and possibly counter him with punches. Unless Angelikas can, hit him with a perfect uppercut or counter punch early, and counter Nemkov's aggression, then I think Nemkov either, the way their styles, I don't think they can have a slow fight, because Angelikas will push to the cage, but even though he has NIA level wrestling, we've seen Vadim Nemkov's wrestling and Sambo stack up against some of the best guys in the division. And if he goes in on him, hurt, he's going to get subbed, which is interesting, and hold that thought. But if he just goes for regular takedowns or cage pushing, he's going to get out position and probably countered. He'll get countered underhooked because he's tall and doesn't wrestle as good as Nemkov, and Nemkov reverses shots, so he'll often hoist guys up and then rechange level or get in the inside and hit inside trip body locks. And then he could get on top of Angelikas, hurt him, and then maybe even get a sub from there. So leg kicks or head kicks on top to hurt him, or reversals / opportunistic capitalizations in the grappling department for a submission finish. Now, the odds don't represent it that much. The odds represent it as far as he opened at high chalk, has been bet to higher chalk for the money line. But I believe, let's see where it is now. But I believe it was like chalk for by TKO, and chalk for inside the distance, of course. Let's see. Nemkov TKO still listing at plus 110. Nemkov inside the distance minus 135. But by submission, I don't know if it's still that way. I got it for 900. Plus 550. Okay, it went way down. Wow. Okay. It opened at 900. I took it at 900. That was just a stupid high line. I'm waiting for it to open at MyBookie, my other account, main account that I use. But they're fucking stupid slow on props. And for some reason, they always wait till Friday afternoon. This is the only time I can go out and run errands and leave the house. And I'm away from my keyboard, and the props get released at crappy numbers because they don't have the best numbers to start with, and then they all get bet down by the time I can get to it, which is why my Bet Online AG account is much higher. So I got it there at plus 900. I just put 0.33 units on it at plus 900, and I also sprinkled on rounds 1 and 2 because, again, I see their stylistic matchup producing violence. I don't think we got total yet. I'm not sure what they're going to do the total. It looks like it's under 4.5, minus 152. Geez. That under is pretty damn safe, too, at minus 152. Goddamn, what did that open at? Minus 4.5. That's the chalk. That's the chalk under minus 4.5 you should be playing this weekend. Jesus. Especially that it opened at, minus 150. It's right there at the opener still, pretty much. But yeah, no, I played, which would be fit in that wheelhouse with plus money. I played Nemkov. I sprinkled 0.1 or 0.17. So not 1.7, 0.17. I know I kind of misspeak on some of these. 0.17 on the round 1 prop for plus 200, and then 0.33 on the round 2 prop for plus 600. Another reason why I won't play the under, even though it's more coverage and a cheaper price in this prop, for those of you out there, I actually just in case Nemkov knocks him out, or God forbid knocks him out in the third round. None of those would hit. So I bullied myself into laying the chalk. I usually don't do this this high for props this high, much less play props this high. Nemkov inside the distance -185 at 2.77 units. That's right, 2.77 units for Nemkov inside the distance. So hopefully he gets it done by sub and inside. That'll cash big. It doesn't matter the round if I hit the round props or not. But the most potent rounds are accounted for. So we just need Nemkov to not drop the ball. Let us be blessed by the Bellator favorite gods. All right. Okay. That's Latish Bellator. What time is that? 31. All right. UFC Vegas 40. UFC Fight Night 195, UFC Ladd versus Dumont. Yeah. Let's pull it up here. We're going to go from top to bottom, of course. No main event breakdown again for the UFC, like I said off the top of this show. The only main event treatments I did in depth at Junkie are the Bellator Grand Prix matchups. And I got my Dana White Contender Series grading the winners. The things that I always do. When I give my opinions, popular or not. Thank you for those of you supporting those. Yeah, we got Aspen Ladd -134, Norma Dumont +114. I went with Dumont here. I was leaning her stylistically, and it matched stylistically for me to pick her straight up, but especially with Aspen Ladd shaking on the scale. Of course, she's had many rough weight cuts, but some have resulted in the cut of Leslie Smith. The others have resulted in, and obviously not putting that on her, I'm just making a little jab there, which, damn referencing a true, crazy occurrence, these weight misses with Ladd, and, she got knocked out by shaking on the scale, then going out to fight anyways. Jermaine Durandamy, which was probably not smart in retrospect, right? In the name of safety, folks, again, you don't get me started on that and how many people are clearly looking for fighter safety, which seems to be it here, it's really questioning the scene, with, and by the way, our manager, cornerman, romantic interests, whatever the roles are, I'm trying to be polite and respectful with it. The guy does give really good corner advice. He's really sharp. Seems like a really smart guy in that aspect. Again, I'm trying to give credit where credit's due, so it doesn't seem like I'm just shitting on these people. But we have to be objective. We have to be critical, and we have to call things as they are. Conflict of interest to performance and all the like, right? Just like I hold myself accountable, you wish the people that actually matter, not dingbats like me, athletic commissions, corners, whatnot, hold accountability, which is why even when they do mistakes, make sure you praise the people that take accountability, which is why I gave credit to James Krause for taking that accountability. But you saw the arguing at the scale, the going at Misha online, the yelling at commission members, and little care for the fighter. And, you hear Ladd, and I heard this in their interviews, like she did one with Shots My Man, Aaron Bronstetter on TSN MMA show, and she was saying that she didn't even realize the fight was 5 rounds and or who the opponent was. She just took it. And then the reason why is, what she said was true, saying like, oh, it's not a reward, da-da-da-da, and I think reward's the wrong way to frame it, because it's not a reward. You're right. What it is, it's bad precedent, it's bad protocol, and it shows that we really don't care about the fighters, whether it's the promotion or the teams really themselves, if they really were caring about the fighter health. Because what she is preaching, and you can tell, like, is someone saying that? Or that sounds like something like told to them, whether it was like a father figure, a significant other, a boss, a preacher, a teacher, some kind of figure that they hold up high, right? And we've all done it. I'm just as guilty. This isn't me picking on anybody. This is human nature, and I, my hand raised, am just as guilty, okay? But again, in the interest of why we're all here today, dearly departed, is to be critical and to try to make some money here. Excuse me. apologies. And yeah, sorry, I don't know where I was going with that. I kind of lost track. I fell off the tracks there. But yeah, I don't like, I don't like what I heard, as far as that. It really felt like she was just repeating that, talking points that, like a manager would say to impress the UFC, the manager would say as PR for their fighter, like, we weren't gifted this. You think I'm the first fighter they came to? They came to others. We were the ones that took the fight that nobody wanted to take. And that sounds like real manager speak, not fighter speak, And I didn't like how she seemed unprepared to answer questions about the fighter because she was like unprepared. I mean, how do you blame her? It's only been a couple of weeks. How much time do you have to really prepare? But it sounded like it wasn't even like brought to her. Like, how much do you have in the decision making if you don't even know that it's 5 rounds of who the opponent is, and you're agreeing to it, and your reasoning is after the fact manager speak? It really, again, I'm not there. All I can do is this is only speculation, folks. That's all it is. And all I can do is speculate off of the information that's in front of us that we've seen, the evidence, as an outsider. And yeah, I don't. I'm not saying that obviously Aspen's team, significant other's corner coach cares. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if we're going to be really critical, we sure have a funny way of showing it in the sport on how we treat these fighters if we really care about them, yeah? So that is just fucking flag city. Okay, even if Ladd is more healthier and ends up being a natural 145, or say what you will about the division, okay, fine. Now let's look at the fight stylistically. As we've seen, fighters that are big and strong and can competently fight from the clinch provide problems. We saw that with Yana Kunitskaya, who made just very small improvements and in that area, and was enough to give Ladd some problems, because a lot of their takedowns were she had to really chain and go through a lot of things, be opportunistic with a lot of things to line up, which I think a lot of things will have to line up here for her to take down Dumont, who actually seems to have like good takedown defense, good underhook awareness, a good head position, which was a huge key. When I was rewatching tape, I was actually surprised. I was like, oh, Ladd's actually not as good at head position as I could remember. And her footwork was just, not that it didn't stick out before as bad, but it was just really bad the way she kind of hop skips and has this weird, predictable pace, and she just follows her opponents around. And it's like, yeah, no wonder why she got countered by Duran to me. I should have picked that to happen. I picked Ladd for that fight, folks, by the way. I was wrong. And Dumont obviously doesn't have any stoppage wins officially on her record because her MMA record's short. Most of her experience was in kickboxing and Wushu Sanda, where she has a black belt, which all that pretty much means is she spent a lot of time in Wushu Sanda. That is her main martial art, as well as jiu-jitsu, perhaps a stereotype of being from Brazil, but she actually has a brown belt to boot, which is, ranks don't mean everything, folks, obviously, especially in MMA, but for what it's worth, she actually is technically a higher rank than Aspen Ladd on the ground, but her clinch fighting and her takedown defense look really on point, too. Not just statistically does it all look good, but if you look at it, she again, good underhooks, good head positioning, and perhaps some of the, a little bit of the Muay Thai twang in there. She really is good about turning her opponents, gets the underhook and turns, whereas Ladd, even when she does get the underhook, she doesn't turn, and you hear her corners repeatedly chew her out in multiple fights for that. Again, a lot of Ladd's success is very, I don't even want to say Diego Sanchez-like, because Diego Sanchez actually wrestled and actually was like a really good grappler who competed and had a black belt, yada, yada, yada. But it's very Diego Sanchez-esque in the sense of his aggression, durability, coming forward, and will is what's been getting Ladd a lot of her wins and positions when you really break them down. And I'm not trying to take away credit, but that's just it's definitely a perspective you can take from it if you want to put some healthy skepticism in there at the very least, right? So, now you factor in Dumont's been able to do that, look competent, and she's been able to do that training at a not very notable gym. Well, now she relocated UFC PI ever since her recent weight struggles and was here way ahead of her fight. Originally supposed to face Holly Holm, which is like, maybe not a Super Bowl of sorts. Shout out to Sean Carey there, but that was one of his terms. But, it's essentially the same thing. It's a main event. It's, big name. So you could see Dumont in the shape of her life, training over at Syndicate Martial Arts, which is a good gym here in Las Vegas that has plenty of females to train with. UFC level ones at that, right? So she's going to have those looks. And so I really like that a lot. I think Lad's going to be in for a rude awakening as far as the counters, clinch competency. And even if she does get it to the ground, I think that Dumont can survive. You just got to hope that Lad doesn't repeatedly get it to the ground, because then perhaps she can tire Dumont. Whereas Lad, I could see maybe attrited down the stretch more. Unless I can get an under for like minus 115 or under, preferably under minus 115. I mean, it opened at plus money, so that's where you ideally would have wanted it. But the money you got bet to now, it kind of pushed me away. So to where I'm not really looking at it, even if it does come back down. And I kind of just laid on. I got enough, money in different places this week to hope enough comes through. So I just ended up kicking for coverage and playing as far as money lines go, and played the plus money side. Dumont at plus money here. So however she does get it done, as long as she gets it done, we can cash on that. All right, next fight. Carlos Philippe minus 110. Andrei Arlovsky minus 106. I think this opened at dead even. Oh no, Arlovsky opened at minus 160. That sounds about right. He should be favored, not by a lot. It's heavyweight. He's getting older. And Philippe, for all his problems, he has got heart, durability, and output, and that'll do a lot at heavyweight. I don't think he's got the power to put away Arlovsky, especially, Arlovsky, his chin not being what we thought it was back in 2011. Just still training hard, still very realistic about where he's at. And I think this is still realistically a fight that he can win. Carlos Philippe's, he's got some ground credentials, but nothing big. I think he's only like a blue belt or a purple belt or something like that. Officially, obviously, just a lot of MMA, probably mainly for no-gi. And obviously mainly boxes anyways on the feet. So output and attitude, you could see maybe off-put Arlovsky. Maybe he stings it with something Arlovsky doesn't see and just doesn't let off the trigger, and it's bad body language, and they don't see the dancing around counters and point stuff of Arlovsky, and they just see the forward pressure and volume of Philippe, or Philippe, is getting tagged just as much coming back, but Philippe is, doing the Diaz brother cocky thing, and we know refs and judges, they're only human. And we've seen it before, that body language, whether someone looks tired or whether they're being cocky, they get around that they probably should have won, scored against them. So, it could work against Philippe too, in other words. So I picked Arlovsky. I haven't seen him at plus money any of the houses that I'm in. If I do, I'll probably sprinkle, especially if I'm up at that point of the night. Sprinkle on my guy Arlovsky. But it's just a pick, and I can't, I can't run to the betting window or tell you to on a heavyweight fight like this, but I'll definitely be backing my guy if I can get some plus money, and I'm doing well by that night, so we'll see, but it'll be small, obviously this isn't something I'm going to run and bet big. We'll see. Hearts with Arlovsky, and everyone else on the same side, I guess. Eric Gonzalez plus 190, newcomer to Jim Milasan plus minus 230. You don't need to come to this podcast to know that there's an auto bet here for Jim Miller by submission. That being said, I think it's legit. Gonzalez is only a blue belt, an inexperienced one at that, only has one submission win. A couple submission losses to boot, mainly gets it done on the feet. Long guy, more of a reason Miller will take him down. And if Rafa Garcia got him down with takedowns and his abysmal takedown defense, Jim Miller's going to take him down very easily. I mean, I shouldn't have to break this down from the Jim Miller side by just saying Jim Miller son, auto bet, Miller sub, Bad Moon Rising. I'm a Miller fan there, but also, you guys also know that for as much of a fan I can be, as much of a nice of a guy I try to be. If I were to say one of the worst fighters ever in the past 5 years, for sure, past even 10 years, it's got to be Humberto Bandenay. And who lost a decision to Humberto Bandenay? Well, Eric Gonzalez did. So that alone, almost makes me want to max bet my guy Jim. But I mean, minus 2 230. I'm not trying to sit here and do that, you know. So plus sub money. It's not the sexiest number. Plus 250, not too far from the opener. I just took it for a half a unit to make up for some, to cash some, make up for some money in case some of these other plays fail there. So nice little sprinkle shot on Jim Millison. First of a 3-leg parlay here. Manon Fiorot, minus 245. I took her over Maida Chitara, Eye of Thundera, plus 200. Mayra Bueno Silva. I know I backed Silva the last time out, and she got the draw thanks to her fight IQ. Although, you could argue she could have got the one if we're sticking to that damage energy, but I didn't hate it as much the second time around. And it showed a lot about Bueno Silva, and she's pretty much just armbar or just sloppy power shots. And Fiorot is, I'm sure, between her Muay Thai experience, where she's undefeated and actually has titles, and titles in countries like France. I know America has a stereotypical, a bunch of negative stereotypes when it comes to France, but they have really good kickboxing and Muay Thai, as we're starting to see. She also, of course, has the karate background as well. Yeah, I just think that her footwork, even in the smaller cage, she can get really ugly when she gets pressure sometimes and back up. So there'll be some opportunities in the clinch, but I just think that Bueno Silva's porous footwork and vacancy of process and porous defense is going to bode really badly for Fiorot's southpaw stylings. Bueno Silva hasn't really faced southpaws. She doesn't have much to train with. Just her girl, Gloria DePaula, who, is supposed to be a striker and herself, I believe, but she's orthodox, more Muay Thai. And, she got a head kick KO by Cheyenne Bays recently. I haven't seen any pictures of her at Prime Sports Shootbox there. Chucky Olive's gym in the last 10 weeks, although it appears obviously she's still affiliated there. So is DePaula. She's just been training a lot at another gym as well that I'm seeing, I guess, mainly. I'm not sure if that has anything to do with anything, but for what that's worth. I'm not sure if Fiorot can get a finish because Bueno Silva seems durable, but as you've seen, she's the master of getting standing stoppages. It's because she puts out like ridiculous volume. Like she's almost getting to 100 significant strikes landed, by the midway point of round 2, which is pretty, insane. Mid to end points of round 2, which is, it's pretty insane. I know she hasn't faced anyone crazy. Obviously, Leonardo and Tabitha Ricci, who is a strawweight. And I will say this: if she does lose, here's how it is going to be by an armbar, because that is the spoiler of all women's fights. If we're being stereotypical, but no, if we're being real, here's my worry. I like Fiorot, but last time I liked a blonde southpaw. Who fought at 125, who could also wrestle and do opportunistic takedowns. Well, that guy was Justin Scoggins, and I was surprised to see that Fiorot went 1-for-1 takedowns. First of all, she actually went for 1-for-2, I think, in her second to last fight. They're really bad with those takedown attempts and scores. But I will say in Fiorot's defense, she is a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is higher than Mayra Bueno Silva, who is kind of just unranked armbar opportunist from Brazil, right? I know you'd like to stereotype the Brazilians and say they all have black belts, but that's not the case, folks. It's not the case. Even the talented ones, they can do an armbar doesn't mean they have the black belt. But hey, Chucky Olives didn't have the black belt and was getting armbars when he came in the UFC, right? Fiorot went and got takedowns, and she said she was working on her wrestling. She's got the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, and that's good. You want a striker to okay, that's good. She actually looks like she can, competently wrestle, I guess. But does she really want to do that here? If you can stay out of the arm bars, it's actually not a bad path to victory against Bueno Silva because she doesn't have takedown defense and will secede position. I mean, she won't secede position. She just doesn't have any get-up game, and she just is just dead set. She's like a wind-up toy that's just set on attack. Doesn't have very good directionality, doesn't change direction, doesn't get off its back very well, but it will just keep, like a wind-up toy, just keep swinging and throwing things up, right? So that's what you're essentially dealing with Mayra Bueno Silva. So Firo will have an IQ test for as long as she's in there with her for. But round 2, much less round 3, is nowhere near as juicy as I like them to be. And since I'm already exposed on this fight with parlay, I just left it at that as the side. If it busts, you just hope my other bets, especially my next one, comes through, which is Julian Marquez minus 245 versus Jordan Wright plus 200. Marquez is the second of 3 legs here. Basically, you could do the old Sherdog breakdown and go Jordan Wright is do or die, and Marquez is do or not die. He only loses by decision and only wins by finish, Marquez. So that alone would justify my Marquez inside the distance at minus 155 for 1.55 units, which I did do. I know 2 inside the distance props I laid chalk on and heavy chalk on. But if Marquez and Nemkov are the only bets that come through in any of the combinations that I played them, it'll be a good night. Let's just say that, folks. We already have the honey nest we laid for the. Hopefully it's a honey nest, not a honey trap. Ugh, I don't know why I used that word. But we'll see what I laid. I'll show you what I laid for Marquez. Of course, Marquez by sub is the popular bet that your boy has been on the last 2 times. And he's actually only gotten 3 subs, with the other one being Darren Stewart. So only more recently, only in his UFC career. But again, before his last 2, as your boy told you, who's gotten to spend some time with Julian Marquez, very, very nice guy. He and just chopping shop and fucking around, and his knowledge was, again, I told you guys this a bunch of times, he's much smarter than you might think. He's in and out of the cage, and his ground game is definitely underrated. And what does he go out there? He goes and cashes 2 sub tickets. So part of him could get, I think he get the knockout this time, which is why I played the inside the distance. But I did play the sub again because that is where most people want to get Jordan Wright. He's just a knockout or bust guy. And even though he mainly gets knocked out, it's not like he's gotten subbed, and has a serviceable ground game. I think the strength is going to be the difference. I remember him saying how strong Ike Villanueva was. Well, I think he's going to think Marquez is a real beast then. And you look at, to Wright's credit, even though he gets put out or dropped and stuff, he'll keep fighting and he'll shoot in. And I just see him shooting in for a guillotine, So I feel like that toughness and will to fight and Marquez's follow-up and choking repertoire and submission repertoire, I feel like that was worth a shot. So I played the submission at just under half a unit, 0.45 units. And then I sprinkled on rounds 1 and 2 again here. But Marquez, not as good odds for that. I went 0.33 units round 1 at plus 200 and 0.22 units for round 2 at plus 450. Usually be rounds 2 and 3 for Marquez because he's a comeback fighter. But dude, this is going to be so volatile, and Wright is so volatile, and even in the fights where, Wright was finished, in round 2, by Buckley, if you go back and rewatch the fight, you remember he actually almost got put out, and the fight probably should have been stopped at the end of round 1, so, yeah, even though it's not a sexy number, that's why I opted for round 1 instead of round 3 to couple the round 2 play there for Marquez. And we'll bust through these rest of these rather quickly. Lupita Godinez minus 215, Luana Carolina plus 180. We had a Sajara Eubanks missing in here for this shuffle. Godinez gets that turnaround that I talked about was coming. I took Godinez here. She opened as a favorite for good reason. Luana Carolina only a blue belt in Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Godinez, even though it's up a division and Catalina will be strong, if she gets her down, I think she can get the submission. She's proven so. But, Carolina tall. Maybe Godinez runs into a knee. Maybe she can keep her at bay. I don't know. She's got an 8-inch reach. I forget what she has in height. A couple inches there, too. But an 8-inch reach advantage. So we'll see. Turnaround. A lot of intangibles there. pick is Godinez. I left her out of parlays and didn't play this one, though. Another fight I didn't play, maybe I would have if I got the opening line. I believe Bruno Silva opened as a dog, but Bruno Silva now favorite, -162. Andrew Sanchez, +136. I get it. Bruno Silva, brown belt, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, not how he wins his fights, but I got to imagine good enough to survive against Andrew Sanchez. And you really got to just survive for a round, even though his cardio has gotten better. He's most potent in round 1. Whereas Bruno Silva also potent in round 1, but can win in later rounds too. Really potent finisher overall. Evalu Kautai, really good striking. I took Bruno Silva, but I stayed away from this fight. Next fight, Ramzan Ameev, -320. Danny Roberts, +260. I actually went with Roberts here. I feel like Ameev's a parlay buster. If I'm wrong, I hope it's just that I'm wrong on Ameev and that not that I'm wrong as in I ended up with one of the parlay busters in my pile. Knock wood, that would suck. But I feel like Ameev's always that either dependable parlay piece or the guy that like suspect. And I rarely pick against him because, I respect his game. But something about this one, this is one of those weird gut feelings. And if anybody is going to, it's going to be a fast, lengthy, explosive. God, did I really use explosive on a Dark Gentleman? Jesus, Dan. You're breaking your own rules here. Knockout puncher or kicker like Danny Roberts mainly punches, obviously. He also can hit, triangles and opportunistic submissions if he rocks them. Ameev goes for a drunken takedown, can fall into a triangle here. I'll go Roberts round 2. I don't know if I'm going to play it. If I'm picking Roberts, I probably should sprinkle something small, as I probably will. Small, if I do. Small, not completely confident. Didn't go and retape this fight. I just remember, which, I was wrong on my Zawada pick by a mile, so this is bad, but I just remember Zawada kind of impressing me in a loss. In a loss that he could have had an argument for. Not saying he should have, but he could have had an argument for winning. And it was a split, but that doesn't mean anything because splits can be given when it's not deserved. But I just remember Zawada making a decent account for himself, and if Zawada can make a decent account for himself, Roberts, who I think is a more potent finisher, can pull off an upset here. It'd be cool to see. So don't follow me off that cliff, though. It's not a confident one. I picked Roberts. I'll stick with it. Ludovit Klein, -390 versus Nate the Train Landwehr, y'all. You guys know I'm a big Nate the Train fan. Migos and George were interviewing that guy back in his M1 days when he was making that run over there. That being said, I got Ludovit Klein here. He is the third leg to hopefully close out the parlay. Now I'm a bit worried. Nate the Train did a much-needed move to get away from the home small gym and wherever he was down there in the South and went to South Florida, MMA Masters more specifically. But I'm not sure what the one camp will do. He has been there for a decent amount of time, mind you, like almost 5 months or so. But, you associate that camp. Maybe he's gotten better wrestling and ground game, which may help him. But I don't think it's going to help him enough to make it offensive. So what's going to help him offensively? Maybe strikes, calf kicks it's known for, but he's a right-handed stance, orthodox stance fighter going against a southpaw, so I'm not sure how much of those weapons are going to be there. His boxing is already one of his stronger suits as far as striking goes. Hopefully they helped him sharpen that up, maybe some defense, but I feel like Nate is kind of who Nate is, man, and it won't take very long for him to get back into that war, and against a sharp finisher like Klein, I think that's bad news, man. So I think Klein's going to get it done early round 2, if not round 1, probably round 1. I know Arosa mainly fought orthodox, who's usually a southpaw, but southpaw Arosa beat him. Sanford MMA team member is the other person who knocked him out in the UFC. Of course, that was Gilbert Burns. So against an actual striker, actual southpaw from Sanford MMA, who has been on a tear. I know Rosa lost last week, not a southpaw. On a tear when you look at their southpaws, though. Or fighters fighting against southpaws. Again, prepping southpaws or prepping to fight against southpaws. Sanford has been on a crazy tear. I've been saying it all year, and they've been proving me right there. We'll see if that continues. That trend continues here. I backed it for what it's worth. So I got Klein 390, Marquez and Fierro at -250 for a +146. I actually got it at a better line. at another house, but I'm not sitting here in line shopping to bump my chest. I'm giving you guys the real, more up to date, lowest common denominator, more realistic lines here. But yeah, put 1 unit for plus 146 for the 3-leg parlay this week. That's going to be up on Odds Checker along with Miller by sub. I threw a little bit of tidbits in there for the Marquez on that one, but of course you guys are getting all the Bellator, the big Nemkov play. It's my biggest play of the week. All here via at the PYM podcast. Follow us on all social platforms. Give the show a shout. I know it's short time turnarounds with these shows, but all right, we're going to keep push through these last two real quick. I avoided these last two, but I'm a root for y'all, especially if you're on the underdogs here, because Brandon Davis is an underdog plus 146 versus Dana Bakary minus 174. I actually went with Dana here because I like his left hook right hand returns. I think that'll be potent enough for Davis. I could see Davis doing his feints and his whole thing, and then just getting hit with a couple hard shots to sway it. Did like what I heard from Davis as far as incorporating more of his wrestling and jiu-jitsu. I don't see any ranks up there. He is a purple belt with 3 stripes. He does outrank Dana's Gracie Baja blue belt. But they both have deceptive and different, could be perhaps misleading, but kickboxing credentials nonetheless. That's where I see the majority of this fight taking place. Wasn't able to see too much of Davis's recent fights. One guy was really experienced, but the other two, didn't look much on paper, so we'll see. I hope I'm wrong on the pick. I didn't play it, so good luck to you, Davis bettors. My heart's with you. My heart's with Brandon Davis, but the pick is Dana Bakary. Lastly, but not leastly, Ariane Canalosi minus 158. Stella Nunes plus 134. I looked this fight up enough to make a pick, and I ended up with Carnalosi, who is the Muay Thai black belt, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt from Nova União. Stout, strong. Estela Nunes looks pretty athletic in a different way herself. Has a ton of Muay Thai cred there. I ended up going with Carnalosi, but I did not look into this fight. So those last two are an avoid with the Silva Sanchez. Probably I'll just be staying away from that one outright. All right, recapping. Taking Bellator taking Nemkov over Anglicus, taking Anderson over Bader, but stayed away. And then recapping UFC, taking Dumont over Ladd, taking Orlovsky over Philippe, taking Jamilasan over Gonzalez, taking Fierro over Shitara Maida Bueno Silva, taking Marquez over Jordan Wright, taking Godinez over Catalina, taking Silva over Sanchez, taking Roberts over Amiv, taking Klein over Landwehr, taking Bakary over Davis, taking Carnalosi over Nunes. Parlayed Klein, Marquez, and Fierro at plus 146 for 1 unit. Played Dumont at plus 112 for 1 unit. Nemkov inside the distance, I played at minus 185 at 2.77 units. Also sprinkled on by sub at plus 900 for 0.37 units. And played the Nemkov round subs. Round 1 Nemkov plus 200 for 0.17 units, and round 2 plus 600 for 0.33 units. I played Marquez inside the distance as well at chalk minus 155 for a whopping 1.55 units. Sprinkled on the sub for him as well for only plus 225 at 0.45 units. And also sprinkled on his round 1 and round 2 props plus 200, 0.33 units. Round 2 plus 450, 0.22 units. Sprinkled on Miller by submission plus 250 for a half a unit. Avoided Davis Bakary, avoided Carnalosi Nunes, avoided Silva Sanchez. All right, folks. Thank you very much. MixedMartialAnalyst.com for the PayPal donation link, the Amazon click-throughs, which I'll read at another time. You guys have been clicking through that. Appreciate it. Amazon sucks to buy through. You should feel guilty. I know I do. But to feel less guilty, go to MixedMartialAnalyst.com. Go to the right, toggle to the right if you're on the mobile, and click through the Amazon link. For no extra charge, whatever you buy, a small percentage will be kicked back to the show. It'll list the items, which I will shout you out, but it will not list who you are. So if you want to buy, a David Carradine, a little vibrator, a little little rope, a little autoerotic fix, whatever you're into, okay? I'm not going to judge. I will pontificate on the products. Because of course I wish you the best no matter what you're into, no matter what your picks and plays are, even if they're against mine. Hopefully these fights can break down in a way where we all take home some winning cash. Either way, thank you for listening. Good luck, and always protect your neck.